Getting back to it a little bit late this week, but welcome back in for the unofficial WCC Hoops podcast. I'm Zach Farmer, and big win for St. Mary's against USF over the weekend. Gonzaga looks like it's setting to rebound with big wins over Pepperdine and San Diego. Santa Clara back on the right track with a win of their own. A lot happening. The conference kind of settling into what we all thought it was going to be. And we'll get into that a little bit later, but I am going to start with the big win for St. Mary's over USF. Before we get any further, be sure to hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel and favorite on your favorite streaming service. St. Mary's and USF. It was the big game of the week. USF had a big week overall. They had to face LMU at home, and then they were set to take on the Gaels on this past Saturday. And that really was kind of the litmus test for both teams going into it. St. Mary's went into it winning 10 of 11. And really, since the Colorado State game, hadn't faced a really top-tier opponent and needed another real test. They had gone, and yes, they had beaten Santa Clara, but that was Santa Clara on a hangover. They had played LMU, and that was a pretty tough game. But USF was one of the other two teams that metrically was the best team in the league consistently throughout the course of the year. The least variance is what USF had. And for USF, it was also the litmus test. They had won 6 straight and had come close against Utah State, come close against the likes of Boise, had come close against Grand Canyon, but could not close the deal. Could they close the deal against St. Mary's? Could they get that big win against St. Mary's and really start to catapult their at-large chances? As we found out, this was really the stamping of we are back for St. Mary's. The Gaels won 77-60. Joshua Jefferson had a great game, career high 21 points, 10 rebounds. Aiden Mahaney with 22 for himself. Mitchell Saxon with 16 and 8, 2 blocks. They hit their first 7 threes in this game. They came out on fire, ready for this contest, and this looked very much like the St. Mary's team we all thought we would see all year long. And they are playing their best basketball right now. They look the part. They're playing defense like the part. And now the offense has finally started to come through as well. I mean, I've talked a lot about Augustus Marshallonis. He had 9, 7, and 9 on Saturday. He had a near triple-double. Joshua Jefferson has kind of been the other guy along for the ride on that as well. His shooting percentages are where we see the big difference. Since that Colorado State game, he's been shooting 53% from the field, 43% from 3. He was shooting 35% from the field and 7% from 3 before that game. So huge turnaround for Josh Jefferson. He really does look like he's starting to become a star in this league. He reminds me a lot of Rob Jones in a lot of ways. Like, he's the first 4-man for St. Mary's that really can give you this inside-outside game and have a significant responsibility on the ball handling front, can push the tempo on his own, does not need an outlet to start the break. A lot of really nice things to see from Josh Jefferson. And this is a St. Mary's team that does look like it's starting to put it all together. USF on the other side, this was a bit of a wake-up call, I think, for them. The Dons went in as one of the best three-point shooting teams in the league. They were 2 for 17 from 3. Jonathan Mobo went in arguably the player of the year to this point in the season. He was held to 11 points, 6 rebounds. He only took 5 shots, and it was half his conference totals. They were beat in second chance points 13-0 by St. Mary's. The one bright spot for USF in this game was Ryan Beasley, and that was really exciting to see him play significant minutes in this one and really kind of go back and forth with Aiden Mahaney for a while. Beasley played 27 minutes. He had 17 points, 7 for 10 from the field. And he and Mahaney, there is a little bit of history here, high school history. Ryan Beasley was at Doherty Valley High School in the East Bay, Aiden Mahaney at Camp Olindo. These two saw each other quite a bit on the high school scene. And so there is a little bit of animosity, a little bit of history there. And it will be exciting to see that potential rivalry continue to grow as we go through the next few years of these two being in the WCC. Hopefully still in the WCC. And we'll take this one at a time. Big picture for St. Mary's, and we'll talk about big picture for USF. For St. Mary's, they jumped 8 spots in the net from 30 to 22 with the win. And when the net was released, they're at 22 now. St. Mary's had lost 5 of their last 6. And they opened up at 155. That's where they were. Then they won at number 13 Colorado State, which leapfrogged them all the way up to 85. On the eve of WCC play, they were at 51. They've now won 6 straight, 11 of 12. They are 3-4 in quad 1 games. They are 5-4 against Q1, Q2 opponents. They have the nation's best true road record at 5-0 with wins at Colorado State, LMU, Santa Clara, USF. They're 5-0 in WCC play. They are 10th in adjusted defensive rating in KenPom. This looks like this team has completely flipped its season. And I was among those who said after they lost the Weber State game, after they lost the Missouri State game, that especially after the Weber State game coming off 5 of 6, this team was toast. That this team now needed to win it all in Vegas for them to have a shot at the NCAA tournament at all. And we're now at the stage where metrically, where result-wise, that is no longer the case. They are legitimately back in the at-large conversation if they do not win the WCC tournament in a month and a half. I've seen brackets that have them as high as a 9 seed. Not only do I see them as the Fox bracket, but Rocco Miller from the Bracketeer, he has St. Mary's as a 9 seed. A lot of places have them as an 11. And they are sitting right now as the lone WCC team. A lot has actually gone St. Mary's way over the last month and a half, and we're seeing that on the court. And I saw this one tweet from over the weekend, and it was one that actually kind of like made me pause, and I laughed at it. But to an extent, like it makes a hell of a lot of sense of what we have seen from St. Mary's over the last, say, 3-4 years. Probably, maybe it's closer to, no, actually 3-4 years. So since the 2020s, this is from Rush the Other 26 at Other 26 Hoops. So account that covers the non-power conferences. The tweet reads, in the 2010s, St. Mary's was known for efficient offense and soft non-cons. In the 2020s, SMC has become the 85 Bears. And you look at the adjusted defensive rankings per year. I retweeted this once. You can see it on Twitter if you go through my feed. This one, you just see like through the 2010s, you have like adjusted defensive rankings of 85, 127, 91, 73, 102, 101. There was a lot of years right around that 100 mark, 80 mark, 90, somewhere in that range. And starting in 2019 is where I think you started to see the shift. And it was in 21 where it completely became the identity. In 19, They were 55, 2020, 96, and then it was 13, 12, 10, and this year so far, 10. The St. Mary's team has become a defensive juggernaut. They have really become consistently one of the best defensive teams in the country, and it has given them the ability to stay in it with tougher teams and then absolutely take lesser teams out of the contest. They turn 10-point games, they make 10-point games feel like 20-point games. They make 6-point games feel like 12-point games. Their defense is suffocating to the point that it just makes it so much harder to come back against this team once they get a lead. Now, admittingly, while they have had maybe better, their defense has been their strength, the offense has not always come along for the ride. We've absolutely seen the St. Mary's team not come through on the offensive end when it needs to, have long stretches when it does not score 7, 8 minutes, 9 minutes. Hell, I think we've even seen a 10-minute stretch at one point or another where they did not score a point or they score 1 or 2 points. But that's kind of turned into the identity of this team. Now, the offense of late, last month, has started to come along for the ride, and that has made the difference for this team. With this defense, with the way this team is playing defense, and now with the offense coming along, they now look like maybe one of the more dangerous teams in college basketball at this point. But St. Mary's was also playing well at this point a year ago. And it was as they got deeper in the conference play when they started to struggle a little bit. Obviously, it didn't impact their seeding all too much. They ended up a 5 seed in the tournament. But for a team like this right now that is still trying to recapture what it had or what the perception was before the season, they need to continue getting better. They need to continue on the stretch and continue its strong play as we go along. Do I think this team is capable of getting better? Absolutely. I don't think that we've seen the best of St. Mary's to this point. And because there's still this bench, I think, can be better than we have seen it, even though their roles are starting to become more defined. And I think that's been an important thing. Looking at what Joshua Jefferson has done, what Augustus Marshallonis has done, what Luke Barrett has done. I think Luke Barrett has been one of the more unsung stories of this team, and he has been a huge help to what they have been able to accomplish to this point. And long way to go. Now, St. Mary's does have a few games. They will have Santa Clara next week. This week is a little bit of a softer schedule for them. Let me take a look at the schedule. I believe this week they have both Pacific, and then they'll also take on LMU on Saturday. LMU, obviously, this second game against them. They played them close last time, so this will still be a pretty big. This will be another strong test for St. Mary's, but this is an LMU game in which St. Mary's, even though they've climbed themselves out of a hole, cannot lose to a team like LMU. Metrically, they look a lot like Missouri State. And that already is being circled as a bad loss because it also came at home. St. Mary's needs to handle its business against Pacific, handle its business against LMU, and then they have Santa Clara next week before then they see Gonzaga on Saturday. So they have Santa Clara Gonzaga next week. This week is a take care of your business because the big games are coming and they are coming soon. For USF, they have still yet to pick up that quad 1 win. They are 0-4 in quad 1s. They're 1-5 between quad 1 and quad 2 games. Not counting Vegas, they have 3 more quad 1 opportunities left. 1 more quad 2. The 2 Gonzaga games, 1 St. Mary's, and the Q2 is at Santa Clara. likely to pick up another Q, at least one more Q1 once you get to Vegas. For them, this becomes the challenge. The at-large conversation is starting to disappear, and the performance against St. Mary's doesn't leaves a lot to be desired as far as what they are capable of doing to try to fix what is not on their resume. In my mind right now, I think they're going to need to take they need to take 2 of the 3 remaining with Gonzaga and St. Mary's, and then sweep through everybody else, and maybe they are okay with losing the Santa Clara game in Santa Clara. They get 2 more quad 1 games in Vegas. Let's say you split those. Again, I'm assuming for the at-large. Taking 2 of those last 3, splitting in Vegas, and I'm saying you get the win against Santa Clara, both wins against Santa Clara. That would put you at 3-6 in quad 1s, 5-7 overall in quad 1, quad 2s. 10-2 the rest of the way, which would put USF at 25-7. And at 25-7, 3-6 win Q1s, 5-7 Q1, Q2, that might be just good enough to get yourself an at-large. Maybe. This year has been so strange when it comes to just the parity in all of college basketball that maybe it would be good enough. I personally think it's still a very tall hill to climb, a very tough thing to be able to pull off. They do get another Q1 shot this Thursday. It is Gonzaga. They have Gonzaga this Thursday. And we know the challenge that it is to go to Spokane and get a win. There's a reason why not many teams have been able to go up there and win. Now, they've already picked up a loss in the Kennel to San Diego State earlier this year. So even this year, it has been shown to be possible to win in that building. USF needs as many wins as it can get to still hold on to the hope of an at-large. Again, big picture thinking about that. I think still USF's best bet is to be playing its best by the time they get to Las Vegas. And also make sure that you're somehow not stuck in the 3-4 slot. Because if you somehow can sneak into the 1-2, then that will be at least one fewer game you have to win to get to win the whole thing in Vegas. Now, what would USF have to do well to pull the upset? Because that's still what it would be. Winning in Spokane, and I know myself included have talked a lot about how Gonzaga has not played as well overall this season, or has not looked the part as often as we're used to seeing. You still have to take care of your business. You still have to do things well, especially on the road, to be able to beat this Gonzaga team. And there are a few things I've highlighted what USF really has to do well. First thing, and this is an obvious one, you have to take care of the glass. USF is going to have to rebound much better than they did against St. Mary's on Saturday. St. Mary's, I know, is one of the best rebounding teams in the country, and one of the best in the conference. But you are going to have to do better against this team on Saturday on Thursday. USF was out rebounded the other night, 41-24. That is clearly not going to cut it against Gonzaga. If that number is anywhere near similar against Gonzaga, USF is not going to be in this ball game. So taking care of the glass, making sure you keep Gonzaga off the offensive boards is going to be critical. The 3-point line. Again, I mentioned earlier, USF was 2 for 17 against St. Mary's. they're going to have to shoot better from three because that is one of their strengths. And we did not see much out of Guido Newberry. He's going to need to shoot better. We're going to need to see something out of Marcus Williams. He did not have a good game against St. Mary's. We're going to need something out of Malik Thomas. We're going to need the the USF guards to really come through in this contest, because I don't think we're going to see back-to-back poor performances from Jonathan Mobo. But they're going to need the help from everybody else. They're going to need it from really everywhere on this roster. And then that's the other thing. Take advantage of your depth, because that is the one thing that USF has better than I think anybody else in the conference is their depth. They are the deepest team. They can legitimately go 9-10 guys deep, whether it be Marcus Williams, Malik Thomas, you go to Guido Newberry, you go to Isaiah Hawthorne, you go to Ryan Beasley, you dig deep, go to Josh Coonan. Like, there are a number of guys who could contribute in a significant way to potentially get a win in Spokane. If all those, I'm thinking at least two of those three things have to happen, especially the 3-point line and taking care of the glass. If they can do that, there's a shot they can pull the upset. On the flip side, for Gonzaga, they've been hearing a lot of this talk about what they're not capable of doing, of how they have played poorly, how they haven't played to their potential. And we saw a little bit more of that against Pepperdine and San Diego. But what are they going to need to do against USF? The few things that initially come to mind is punish USF inside. The one thing that USF is not is they are not terribly big. They are incredibly athletic. They are able to spread you out and really mix and match really well. But they are not a big team. You have a starting center, Jonathan Mobo, at 6'9". And he's definitely more of the athletic 6'9" than the big beefy 6'9". So you have guys who can play low, play on the perimeter. How are you going to be able to kind of pull him away and make him less of a defensive factor? I think is a big part. Allowing your guards to get more inside. Try to get Mobo away from the basket. So I don't know if that's going to be less of Graham Ike for this to work matchup-wise and utilize Braden Huff a little bit more, or utilizing Ben Gregg. But I think that's the one thing that Gonzaga has done all year long really well. They control the inside of the three-point line really well. They shoot from there really well. And if they can continue to utilize that and focus on that and not get in love with the three, that I think is going to serve them better against USF. And as I just mentioned, don't rely on the three. Gonzaga has not shot the three really well at all this year. Yes, they had a good week against Pepperdine. They had a good week against San Diego. Do it against a good team. Gonzaga has not really done that all that well this year. They did not shoot well against Santa Clara. They did not shoot well against Purdue. They did not shoot well against UCLA. It's like there are a number of teams that, like, better teams, or at least on paper better teams, that they have not shot the three well against. They have been able to kind of rebound and get those stats up a little bit against the teams that they're supposed to crush. And they've absolutely done that. But they need to show it, and they need to bring it against a team that is capable of beating them. San Diego wasn't capable of beating them. Pepperdine wasn't capable of beating them. Mississippi Valley State is not capable of beating them. Do it against a team that actually is capable. And then the other thing, on the flip side, I mentioned with USF of shooting well from three. For Gonzaga, chase them off the line. Make them go to the basket. Make them a 2-point shooting team. Do not allow USF to shoot from 3 and get comfortable. Because if they're able to get comfortable out there, that is how they can stay in the game. That's exactly what happened against Pepperdine in that first half. Pepperdine was able to actually hit a few threes and stay in that contest at least for a half. And USF is by far the better shooting team than Pepperdine is. So if you're allowing that against Pepperdine, you have to be careful against that, against a team like the Dons. And rolling through this, and again, the Zags rolled through SoCal. They beat up on Pepperdine 86-61. They beat San Diego 105-63. 2 very convincing wins. It has allowed Gonzaga to get right to an extent. But it didn't start that way. That first half against Pepperdine was not a good half for them. It wasn't a good half for Pepperdine either. Dear God, like watching that game, Pepperdine was just not good. And it was a little hard to watch just how discombobulated they were on offense and were being bailed out by their 3-point shooting. That's what kept them in it for a half. Their scrappiness kept them in it for a half. Their athleticism kept them in it for a half. And then Gonzaga did what Gonzaga does. Blew the doors off them in the second half. Outscored them 46-21. EK had 24 points. A couple nights later, Braden Huff scored 27, his career high against San Diego. And both of those blowout wins. And this is the one, it is an interesting note that the blowout wins against even these teams have seemed to actually really benefit teams in the net. Gonzaga jumped all the way up from the low 40s all the way back up to 30 with these 2 wins. Ryan Nembhard had 25 assists, 0 turnovers the last 3 games. Really good things coming for Gonzaga. But I will say this, and I said this about St. Mary's a few weeks ago. I don't care if you beat San Diego by 40. I don't care if you beat Pepperdine by 20. St. Mary's beat Portland by 43. I did not care. Do it against a better team. This conference has a clear divide on the haves and the have-nots, especially this year. And I needed St. Mary's to do it against a better team. And I'm not even going to say that about the Santa Clara game because Santa Clara had a clear hangover. And yes, St. Mary's played well, but it was a combo of that and Santa Clara just being completely exhausted from that Gonzaga game. I needed to see them do it against USF. And they handled their business. I think Gonzaga has to do the same thing. They have to handle their business against USF. And USF is the test whether they have gotten better and cleaned up their problems. USF is the far better defensive team than Santa Clara. They are a more efficient offensive team than Santa Clara as well. And this is the last good team that Gonzaga has played. A team that beat Gonzaga on their home floor. This is going to be a better sign, a better test to see where Gonzaga actually is at this point. If Gonzaga goes out and wins a close game against USF, I think that does say that Gonzaga is starting to play better. I think that does mean they're starting to clean up some of these things. I also think that means, at least on USF's side, that they are still going to be in the mix, that they are not going away, even though they picked up back-to-back losses. Then I would really be interested to see what that USF Gonzaga game is going to look like in about a month. If Gonzaga blows the doors off of them and does what we have seen them do to countless WCC teams in the Kennel, then I think we can more accurately say that this Gonzaga team has moved in the right direction. They are actually playing really well. And that will be critically important as they are only a week and a half away or 2 weeks away from playing St. Mary's in the Kennel on February 2nd. That is only another week and a half away. It's not that far off. These two have been the 1 and 1A, 1 and 1B, however you want to describe it, 1-2 in the WCC for the past 20 years. That is what these two have been. And if Gonzaga does handle business against USF on Thursday, then we are essentially near set up to have Gonzaga St. Mary's one more time with first place on the line, but going into the final month of conference play. And it's going to be a really fun watch to see how this battle between USF and Gonzaga on this coming Thursday, because I think this is a turning point for both teams. Now let's actually flip that. We talked about what ifs for Gonzaga winning. If USF pulls off that win, if USF goes up to the Kennel and gets a W, it does a few things. One, it now shows that USF has a legitimate shot to win the WCC. I think if they split between St. Mary's, Gonzaga in a back-to-back, you are golden. You are feeling good about yourself. Again, like Santa Clara did just last week. They split against St. Mary's and Gonzaga, and if you're splitting against those two, you're feeling good. You're feeling really good about splitting between those two. If USF could do the same, you're also feeling really good. And now, not only do you now have a tiebreaker against Gonzaga, Santa Clara has a tiebreaker against Gonzaga. St. Mary's has a 2-game lead on Gonzaga before they ever play each other. It sets up a scenario where the last week of the regular season play is going to mean an immense amount. And it's going to just build this pressure and I think it's going to build a lot of excitement going into that final week of play. If USF can take this one, it feels like it's going to be utter chaos that last 2 weeks of WCC play. Because it really does seem like Santa Clara is going to remain in the mix. St. Mary's is clearly the leader of the pack at the moment. USF is going to be right there. Gonzaga is going to be right there. We have not had legitimately 4 teams in this race in a very long time. And if that's what happens on Thursday and USF gets a win, this is going to open the doors for a lot of possibilities as we get closer and closer to February, and as we get closer and closer to the WCC tournament in Las Vegas. All right, and game of the week obviously is that Gonzaga USF game on Thursday. That is one to watch. We have LMU and St. Mary's on Saturday. That's another one to keep an eye on. And just another low-key one, just because we've seen this happen. You don't want to have the hangover, whatnot. USF is going to be at Portland on Saturday. So another one that is an opportunity for USF to just handle its business, but against a team that has been a little tricky for the Dons over the last few years. All right. That'll do it for this episode of the Unofficial WCC Hoops podcast. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and like on your favorite streaming services. Follow on social media at Post by Zach. We will be doing another Thursday live after the Gonzaga St. Mary's. Gonzaga St. Mary's. I keep saying St. Mary's. After the USF Gonzaga game on Thursday, we will do that after that contest that night. All right. With that, have a good week, everybody, and I will catch you later.